The most important element to a great photo is expression, not perfection. Don't worry that you have to have everything perfect. Really, what it comes down to is, does the client see themselves in that? And do they see the memory, the moment, and the joy? And if the joy is there, that photo is winning.
Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and man, do we have a wonderful episode today that I'm excited to share with you all. December is my favorite time of the year, mainly because as it becomes the end of the year, after moving here to Indiana, December until, April is just snow and you're just inside, and it really is a time to reflect on the things that are important, things that you did in the past year, and where it is that you want to go forward. But I know that many of you are still struggling with just learning how to figure out this tool, figure out how to start to make photography something that you can use to tell beautiful stories and create amazing images with your camera. So what I've done is I've taken this time that we have to reflect and slow down a bit to compile some episodes that are a little bit more dense and a little bit more concise. It's not full interviews, but we're tackling some of the most important questions and issues that you face as a beginner photographer. So today, here's what I did. Throughout the year, I would ask guests who I was interviewing the same 3 questions. So over the next 3 weeks, we're going to answer these same 3 questions. So today's episode is all about what is the most important element to a great photo. We all know that a great photo is more than just the sum of its settings. And I'm going to prove that today because not a single one of these photographers says, oh, the settings that you choose. It's all about the elements that go into your photo. And you're going to learn from these photographers, these world-class photographers, what they believe to be the most important element to a great photo. The whole idea here is to spark an idea in your mind about how you can use different elements to put them into your photos to be able to make more of an impact with your work. So, this episode, of course, is brought to you by CloudSpot. CloudSpot is the best solution for photographers just like yourself who need to send photos to family and friends, who want to sell your work, who want to use your camera to help generate additional income for you or your family, whether you just want this to be, maybe a weekend side gig or being a creative professional. CloudSpot is the tool that is going to help you do that. CloudSpot has a free forever plan that you can go ahead and sign up for. Get 10 gigabytes of photo storage for free, and you can even get started booking clients with brand new CloudSpot Studio. So grab your free account over at deliverphotos.com now. We're going to make this a nice, short, tight episode. So with that, let's just go ahead and dive right on in. The first photographer who we are hearing from is Angela Douglas Ramsey from episode 323. What is the most important element that you look for that makes a great photo?
Light, 100%. I think light has to enhance the image, the story within the image. I have an image of my son that I photographed morning light. He was sitting at the dining room table with his shirt off, and he's just leaning back with his eyes closed, and the way the light is falling on his face, I think really enhanced the image. It gave it this more melancholy. It was very serene looking image. And I think if it was evenly lit, it wouldn't have looked the same at all. I think because of the sort of dramatic light that you have going on really adds to the image.
I love what Angela shared. Light really can enhance the story of an image so much. I mean, when you look at movies, right? Movies are just storytelling, and we have to know how the character is feeling, what their motivations are. And oftentimes that's done through light. Next time you watch a movie, notice how many times the character's face is not quote unquote properly exposed, how much they are in silhouette. Why are we doing this? Is it just a creative element, or are we trying to enhance the story with light? All right, next up, let's hear from Doss Miller.
What is the most important element to a great photograph? A great photograph should tell a story of some sort. It should evoke emotion, and it should leave your viewer either informed or left and asking questions.
Every photographer wants somebody to look at their photo and say, "Oh, wow, like that's amazing. That's great." To be something unique. And Doss's way of doing that is oftentimes through emotion. What is the emotion that your subject is portraying? What is the emotion of the overall image? Can that emotion get you to ask questions about the image that can help you to become either more visually literate or explore or expand rather your knowledge and ideas of the world that we live in? Photography is such a powerful tool. I loved that. You can hear the entire episode with Doss by searching for episode 392. All right, next up we have the one and only Vanessa Joy.
The most important element to a great photo is vision. You have to have vision for what you want it to be and make it happen on, I would say paper, but we don't print anymore. Make it happen on pixels.
Vision. Oh my gosh. Without vision, you go out there and you're just shooting blindly. When you can see an image and you say to yourself, "Oh, that wasn't just taken with a point and shoot. Clearly, this image was put together and a lot of work went into this image." That is vision. Ask yourself, what is the difference between a photo that is just a simple snapshot and an image that has vision? What are those visual elements so that you can start to include them in your work? That was wonderful. You can listen to the full interview with Vanessa. That was episode 384. All right, next up, we're hearing from Melissa Miller.
I think the most important element to a great photograph is light. Light isn't everything, but it's almost everything. I personally love backlight. I think it's just magical. The glow in the hair, little girls twirling in dresses with the light shining through. I love beams of light, dust motes caught in light. I just love like glowing light. I think it's beautiful.
I know you can see that light in your head right now. You can see the photo. You've looked through the camera and you can see those beams of light, just that palpable, tangible quality that light can have in an image. There is nothing like that. It is truly, truly incredible. And I too love being able to incorporate that in an image. It is so warm and inviting. And when you see that, oh man, most people don't see this and they're not able to capture this. And when you're able to do that, such a wonderful feeling. All right, well, next, let's hear from the one and only Megan DePiro.
The most important element to a great photo is expression, not perfection. Don't worry that you have to have everything perfect. Really what it comes down to is, does the client see themselves in that? And do they see the memory, the moment, and the joy? And if the joy is there, that photo is winning.
I think this one might have been my favorite because to me, expression is so close to moment in the way that I look at, say, wedding images. When I was shooting weddings, what would make one image stand apart from another? And it would be the expression, because during a wedding, the expression is that moment. Throughout the day, I mean, it's already stressful enough as it is. And sometimes the bride can wear that stress on their face. Everybody can wear that stress on their face. So when there is that moment of levity or joy, you want to capture those because that is the moment that the bride will want to remember, that will outwardly show how she is feeling. And that expression is so, so wonderful. That reminds me most of moment. That is the moment that I am going for. The expression. So good. You can hear the full interview with Megan DePiro. That was episode 374. Next, we got a photographer, Mark Fox, who shoots in the Amazon. So this one, is going to be good.
I think the most important element to a great photo would be telling the story of that person or that subject that you're photographing. I think it's very much, you want to document the whole, because a photograph is very much one photo there telling the story. And you want to kind of tell everything about where they are. So for me, it would be very much their environment that they're in, whether it be on the street, whether it be at a wedding, whether it be, for me, in the Amazon, and just capturing the essence of what they're wearing and how they are, what they're doing. I think capturing all of that makes a great photo.
More than just a creative tool, photography really is such a wonderful medium for documentation. And for Mark, shooting in the Amazon, shooting these indigenous tribes, shooting people who are not Westerners, who have a different life and a different culture than us, photographing the important elements of like you said, what are they wearing? What are they doing? That becomes a time capsule. Just think about photos of, I don't know, your parents from the 70s or just a different time. Visually, it's very different. And we can capture that in a photo. In the moment, it doesn't really seem that different because you're there, you're living it. But to be able to capture it and look back on it later, it becomes a document. So, like Mark said, the people, what it is that they're wearing, what are they doing? Fascinating. All right, next up, let's hear from fantasy photographer Liza Roberts.
My name is Liza Roberts, and the most important element to a great photo is having a comfortable subject.
Now I want to know, how do you do that?
One, like make sure it's okay. Like if you touch them, touch hair, adjust a hand or whatever, make sure like if you ask them, they know if you ask them to do something and they don't want to do that, or if that's awkward or uncomfortable or painful even for them, they don't have to do that. We'll do something else.
You may be thinking to yourself, all right, but I don't really like shoot portraits, so I'm not working with models. I don't know how much that really applies to me. But I can tell you, for me personally, just shooting engagements with a couple, just having somebody in front of my camera, having somebody feel comfortable with you, maybe not even comfortable just to like be able to, touch them and move their hair or fix their collar or whatever it is, or their tie, just having them be comfortable around you. You can see the difference in the photos. I've had photo sessions where I showed up and I called the couple by the wrong name right away. And they just didn't feel comfortable with me throughout the session. And you can feel that in the images. And I've had other sessions where I showed up and it felt like me and the couple were immediately best friends. And you can see that connection within the image. So having your subject feel comfortable with you, whether it is a model, whether it is a couple for a portrait session, or whether it's people on the street, that feeling of connection is really important. So figure out, what are some ways that you can incorporate that? What are some ways that you can get the people who you are photographing to feel comfortable with you? And you can listen to that full interview with Liza Roberts. That was episode 370. Okay, next up we have Savannah Dodd.
So for me, and obviously this is very subjective, but for me, the most important element to a great photo is really the story behind it. How did this photograph come to be, right? What were the relationships behind this photograph? What was the photographer's relationship to the people that they were working with? And what were the ethical underpinnings of this photograph? I think it's always that sort of backstory, getting to know a little bit more about the context through which the photograph was created is super important to me when I'm looking at photographs.
If there was a product that you loved, but you knew that it was being created or manufactured in a way that was devastating to either you, your health, or the people who are actually putting it together, would you still feel the same way about that product or that company? I don't think so. I think what Savannah is saying here is very much like that. If you knew that a product that you love was exploiting children to make that product, you might feel a different way about that product. It's the same with a photo. Sure, you look at the photo itself and you say, wow, what a great photo. But knowing how it was made can completely alter your perception and value of that photo. And we have the ability to be more conscious about the things that we are consuming and supporting more than ever. And being an informed consumer can really enhance your love or your passion for something, because now when you know that it was created under the utmost respect for the people that were being photographed or the situation, it's going to make you love that photo so much more. That was wonderful. You can hear Savannah's entire interview by listening to episode 358. All right, now let's listen to what Gary Pope thinks is the most important element to a great photo.
I think the most important element to a great photo is making sure that you capture something that's truly unique in the moment. There's many photos that you capture where it's like the cookie cutter wedding photos. They're posed looking at each other, smiling, they're kissing. but you really want to make sure you're focused and still taking photos when people are laughing instead of laughing yourself, or when people are crying and you happen to be changing a lens. You want to be ready, and those are the moments that really make a truly great photo, is the actual authentic memory and the feelings that are captured in it.
I find it strange how many photos of my kids I have where they're blinking, because I don't notice how often they blink in real life until I look at their photos, which I think is just proof that photography really is so interesting in its ability to capture these unique things that we don't see every day with our eyes. As Gary said, like a laugh. How often do we look at somebody when we're all laughing? Because we're laughing too with them. That's not something that we see all the time. So being able to capture those unique moments and not just pointing and shooting because, well, here's something in front of us, but waiting for that unique moment of what's going on right now, or making this moment unique with how you use your camera. Fantastic. You can hear the full interview with Gary Pope by listening to episode 348. All right, next up we have Mika McCook.
The most important element to a great photo is feeling. What does the photo make you feel? And then look at the photo and identify how this photo identifies that feeling. What makes something happy? What makes something sad? What makes something luxurious? And doing that will help you in recreating that feeling in your own work.
That one got a little bit more personal than the element in the photo, but asking yourself, how does this photo make me feel? Because every photo is going to have some sort of emotion or feeling to it, right? Photography is a form of communication, so every photo has to communicate something. So if every photo is communicating something, if we ask ourselves, what is it communicating to us? Which helps us to become more self-aware, so that when we are out shooting and we think to ourselves, man, this feels very somber. I want this to feel very somber. We can now kind of look back to all the photos that we have viewed before and have asked ourselves, well, what is it about this photo that makes me feel somber? And as a photographer, being able to communicate with your camera is your most important job. So knowing the tools of how to communicate is so important. I love that one. You can listen to Mika's full interview by listening to episode 350. And next up, let's hear from Anya Puhlman.
I would say the most important element to a great photo is intent. Why do you take this photo? What do you want to say with it? And why did you include the things or the people that are in it? Yeah, so what do you want to say with it? I would say intent.
So many times I've seen boring or horrible vacation images from friends and family on Facebook. And you ask yourself, why in the world would you take a picture of a Starbucks from across the street with tons of cars in the way? Oh, just because, I don't know, it was the first Starbucks or whatever. Like, just because you have a photo of it doesn't make that a good photo. You didn't put any intent in this photo. And that's what I loved about what Anya said here, is that really helps make the difference between seeing a photo that is just a snapshot and seeing a photo that was clearly had thought put into it. The intent. If you're going to do something, do it right. Such a great tip from Anya. If you want to hear the full interview with Anya, you can listen to episode 354. All right, next up we have Julie Christie.
For me, it's impact. It's thinking about the impact that your photograph will have. And when you're looking at a photograph, it's how much impact it has, how long it makes you want to look. And there are just too many photographs that are similar, right? There's so many photographs being taken. And if we stop to consider the impact that this photograph might have on someone, on the right person, I think that's quite a game changer. It's just that word. What impact will this have?
Kind of going back to what I was saying before with Anya, why would I want to look at a photo that was taken with no intent? I wouldn't, because it doesn't make an impact. There's nothing about that photo that speaks to me. There's no impact made. It just looks like it was just taken just because, and there's nothing interesting about that. when you're able to bring impact into an image, that is what makes it stand out. And there's so many ways that you can put impact into an image. It kind of is all of these things that we've been talking about today, right? It is the context. It is the light. It is the emotion. It can be the framing. It can be so many things. The story behind the image. We all have those moments. We look at a photo and we say, oh, wow, that is an interesting photo. It's making an impact on you. Take that time to ask yourself, what is it about this photo that is making an impact in me right now? So that you can start to develop the sense of what is an important element to a great photo in your own words, so that once again, you can go out and when you're shooting, you can inject those elements into your photos to make them more impactful. So good, so good. You can hear the full interview with Julie by listening to episode 340. Next up, we got fine art photographer Harry Skeggs.
So I think the most important element of a great photograph is its cleanliness, its simplicity. Often we're trying to tell a narrative, tell a story, and distracting elements are just going to always get in the way of that. So the simpler your photograph, the simpler the composition, I think the more powerful your message.
I put this one towards the end because I know that, when I listen to an interview like this, an episode like this, that kind of takes those most important elements and brings it into just one episode, I'm now putting together this list of, okay, how can I include light in my photo? Now I have to include emotion. How can I make sure that my vision is seen? What are the visual elements of this photo? How can I ensure that expression is also used? And it almost becomes, I don't want to say like a checklist, but things that I want to include to make the most impact in my photo. So what Harry shares here is so important because sometimes it's just simplicity. Rather than adding things to your photo, ask yourself, what can I take out of this photo to make it as simple as possible? You think of, and I'm just using this example because I remember from our interview, Harry shoots wildlife. And I believe that he has a photo that is very it's a close-up portrait of just a horse's face. Just the face. And there's so much emotion in that photo. Looking at a horse, looking at their eyes, wondering what is going through their head. But you don't see anything else. You don't see the rest of the world. You don't get the context of where we are. We don't see the palpable qualities of light in the image. There's not much. It's not like on its hind legs or anything. It's not a wild moment. It is just the face, and we're having this connection. He could have added all those elements, but instead he took them away to make it as simple as possible. And that simplicity is what makes the impact in the image. You can listen to everything else that Harry has to share in his interview, which is episode 356. And now we're going to kind of continue on this same thing with photographer Tavia Redburn.
The most important element to a great photograph is making it easy for your viewer to understand what is happening. And here's what I mean. Is it simple for your viewer to look at your photo and know what the subject is and know what you're trying to convey as the photographer?
Oftentimes, to make an image easy to understand, we have to strip away all the things that don't add to this photo. One of the things that I struggled with in photography for a long time is that I wanted to give as much context as possible. And to me, that meant using a really wide angle lens because I thought, okay, the more that you can include, the more that you understand. But what happened was that now your eye travels all around this image and almost gets bored by the time you get to the main subject, like the thing that is supposed to make the most impact. And when you're shooting weddings, that's not exactly what it is that you want. So remember that you can create a series of images. It's all of your images combined that can tell the story. And in Tavia's case, she shoots births. That's not a one photo gig. It's not the kiss. It's not something like that. It is a story. It is a progression. It is arriving. It is the nervousness. It is all the preparation. It is the moment itself, the energy in the room, followed by excitement, followed by this newness, followed by connection. There's so much that goes into it that isn't just one photo. So having an image that is easy to understand oftentimes means knowing what is the element of this story that I'm trying to tell right now, and how can I tell that part of the story the best way possible, rather than if I just shoot everything wide, That puts in a lot of context and that let the viewer figure out what the story is. No, tell the viewer your story. Make it easy to understand. You can listen to my full interview with Tavia by listening to episode 346. Why did you buy your camera? Why are you shooting with something other than just a cell phone? Your cell phone takes photos too. Why would you choose something like a dedicated camera? It's more expensive. There's a learning curve. You do it because you want to introduce creativity into your images. You're not just doing it for resolution. You're doing it for creativity. Remember, your camera is a tool to tell a story. How are you going to tell that story? Are you going to tell it very flat? Here's what it is. Or are you going to introduce elements that are interesting to look at? Are you going to bring that creativity to your work? I'm willing to bet that's exactly what you want to do. And all of that starts with just seeing the world a little bit different. You heard from 15 different photographers today who all said a different element was the most important in an image. I want this episode to be a starting place for you to get ideas, to start understanding that the most important aspect of a great image is not the settings that you use. It's what you as the photographer introduce into the image yourself. So while you can hear this interview and start to take these elements and start placing them into your photos, ultimately, only you can decide what is the most important element to a great photo. Because not one of these photographers was correct. But also, not one of these photographers was wrong. They're simply explaining what is the most important element to a great photo for them, not you. If there was only one way to do photography, this whole podcast would only be one episode long. But it's not. Everybody has a different way of seeing the world. Everybody has a different way of communicating what they want to you differently. You, as a photographer, have the power to do that yourself. You can take the same number 2 pencil and give it to you, give it to, I don't know, Stephen King, whatever. And you're going to make 2 entirely different pieces of work. One is going to be really impactful, probably Stephen King's, more so than yours, because he's had practice, because he knows what it is that he's doing. I think this is the 3rd Stephen King reference I've made in this podcast. And why, I don't know. I've actually never read a Stephen King book, so I don't know why. I apologize if you're sick of Stephen King. The point is, when you look for these blog posts or these YouTube videos of what's the best camera to buy, what's the best lens to buy, the answer is going to be according to the person telling you and not you. Take this information as just that, information, not fact. Only you can know what the right elements are for yourself, how you want to communicate a story. And the only way to do that is for you to get out and shoot, for you to shoot more. Because when you get out and you shoot and you get that experience, you then learn for yourself. And that is where your own personal style will come in and start to develop and grow, making you a more powerful photographer. I hope that you're now encouraged to actually get out and shoot and find out for yourself what is the most important element to a great photo for you. That's it for today. Get out and shoot more, because the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.